G'day everyone. Apologies on the big introduction, big long introduction music. Just had to go and kill an ant for my son. Yeah. Have we entered the bear market? Short answer is yes. Are we going to get bounces? Yes. Are we going to hit new all-time highs? Unlikely, but we could get something similar to what happened last bull market. So guess just hang on a sec. I just got to go and sort out my son again. I'll be back. Sorry about that. Wasn't an ant this time, it was a cricket. Yeah, basically this flush here is down for a gap close on CME by the look of it. What did we hit? Low 77,530. CME gap is close there, 77,100. So probably still a little bit more to come. There will be more to come. It's just whether it goes there today or not. We do have a gap to the upside here on CME, 86,400. That's not a bad level for a bounce. We could still go further than that too, though. Even back up into 91.8. That would pick up these vector candles here on CME as well. There is still some liquidity up around 98,400 to grab, but that may be a month or two off. We could do it. Yeah, the thing is, it's going to be choppy, like very, very choppy. Going to be big swings in both directions because shorters tend not to survive real well in this market, just because it'll pump and dump on them. So be very careful. Smaller sizes, lots of protection in terms of your stop losses where they're at. And basically, yeah, just hang on. We'll be looking out for where the potential bottom is. And there's going to be a potential bottom somewhere, probably around this trend line here. Just because it picks up a fairly good trend line off the top of the previous cycle. I don't know what Bitcoin price that'll be at. Seems like it would be a fair way from here. We could still bounce off this little trend line here that's going through the bottom of all these candles. That's probably your best case at the moment for a major bottom. But in the interim, it actually looks like if you zoom out and use this line as a general range, it looks like this candle's actually retested that breakdown of that bull market support band, bull market support trend line. And that's a fairly major break. As we've said previously, this is what it typically looks like. Where we've found major sort of bounces from previously, if we, let's use this one. That's not a bad trend line through there. Sort of picks up the pullback here before it goes again, and picks up this little wick, picks up the bottom here, and it did go for a bit of sideways and a bit of a bounce, but ultimately broke down again. So where is this one here? Never really got back into that area. That's kind of a weird spot for it. In terms of trend lines, didn't really do much there. But obviously it did find a base, pretty decent horizontal base that it just bounced around for quite some time. Realistically, there was one. This one here was a bit of a trend line that you could call, but even that one there, kind of a break above and a retest. It was choppy. We were at the lows. Bear markets can extend for longer than you think. And this one's probably going to be pretty nasty because just based off what Wall Street's looking like as well, and what global markets are looking like. Seems like this one's been triggered a little bit by some data that might have come out. Jolt's job opening's still not even out. Is that right? Chinese CPI. Interesting. Global liquidity showing an uptick too because Chinese bonds are doing the opposite to what US bonds are doing at the moment. Oh yeah, earnings are down a little bit in Japan. What was that, Mark? A little bit down. Ooh, sentiment's really down. Yeah, okay. German trade balance is quite a way down. And we're actually getting a bit of a bullwhip effect in some of the earnings reports too. So people have been discounting to try and get rid of the stock that they built up when prices were lower, and with tariffs coming in, and yeah, they're not able to sell it. They're having to discount it, and that's not a good sign. Is Trump speaking as well? I don't know. Yeah, so Jolt's job openings tomorrow. That could provide the bounce. Um, but yeah, we got a lot of economic data. This drop could keep going just based on this, which is a little surprising. We were at some pretty good levels for a bounce. But yeah, as I said previously, 1 foot out the door. Now we are squarely below what the average mining cost is at the moment. A long way below that. Sentiment, I dare say this will have another tick up on smart money and probably a pretty decent tick down on dumb money. I bet. Yeah, this was distribution in the end, which was a concern, but the other concern is we haven't really seen anything decent come through in the dark pool activity down here yet. So wait and see what happens at the close here. Coinbase, nothing coming up on that yet either. Refresh that. So that was distribution. This one was a weird one. That could have actually been a sell. Someone that was in previously, and they thought this was going to be the end, but that was definitely a sell. So yeah, that's nothing to say that people are really heavily buying the dip here. They're expecting more to come. Mara, that was probably a pretty good sell there. Nothing yet on by the dippers. No. Back into this level's an interesting one though. We break through that, we get nasty. XLP. So consumer staples. That's a decent sweep there on consumer staples. Consumer discretionary still dropping off pretty hard though. It's just staples isn't dropping as hard as what consumer discretionary is. Little bounce there too. First little positive sign. They're buying back into technology a little bit by the look of this as well. That's a fairly decent dark pool trade there at the low. Financials though, that's been the issue for us. So financials took a decent hit today. No big buys at the bottom here yet. Be interesting to see what comes in after the close, but for the time being, that's pretty negative. Good bounce here. That's going to piss me off. Reduce my permissions just to make sure my liquidation level was okay. This is a pretty good bounce. Not the worst level to bounce off. Gap close would have been better, but this, yeah, Bitcoin will do what people aren't expecting it to do. So doesn't surprise me at the same time. What are you doing, Marsh? What are you doing, mate? Okay. What back? What's going on with the bid-ask delta? That seems weird. Okay. Don't know what's still on that, but anyway, it's been a fair bit of buying on the way down. There's a fair bit of bid happening here. It could support a decent rally, but unfortunately, oh no, spot has been picking up here as well. At least it's been staying flat. So this is a good sign that we are going to go on a decent bounce. It will more than likely be a dead cat bounce, but we'll see how high it goes, eh? I just don't know whether we'll sweep this low still just to close that gap. There was a fair bit of liquidity down here. We are picking up some of that. So there's a bit coming to the charts here. So lots of people longing. Like realistically, it's good liquidity down into the 76 and a halves. Let's go out to the weekly. Don't think we're going there yet, but I don't think it's too far away, depending on what you call medium term, long term. This is my concern. So on the monthly, there is still a fair chunk down here around 76, all the way down into 76.2. If you're at 75, for your liquidation level, you might be okay, but I don't know. I'm kind of expecting him to take that at some stage. All right. Let's have a look at the SPY itself. Breakdown of the 200 EMA. Do I have that as EMA? Yeah. Again, bounces up into this region, 590-ish. Possible. At the moment, though, that's a retest of that 200 EMA and a breakdown further from that. Now, this should be a pretty decent supply zone if we hit it. And then, yeah, this sort of level is the sort of target we can expect. And it will probably rip pretty hard just to wipe out the shorters out of the system. Marshy, can you stop playing with that, please? Thank you. Yeah, that's a fairly glaring target there for supply. We're getting close to a demand level, so maybe another day or so to get into this level. But yeah, that there's probably going to be a pretty decent supply level. Yeah, breakdown of this trend line is interesting too. We do have a vector candle in here further for the minis. So again, that's sort of your supply level in there. Equal weight, it can pull back further into this level. I think that is a pretty good horizontal level as well, and picks up this little trend line through here, which was a fairly strong trend line. So maybe another day down yet. IWM too, it's hit close to that support level, but again, you'd probably like to see it at least target on a wick. Yeah, man, IWM, that's just a massive vector candle to be leaving there. We're going full bear market. We can leave it there for months, but yeah, we've got some upside targets. XLY, XLP, this thing's just free fall. Obviously, we're looking for turnarounds in this to really suggest that we're going on a decent bounce. Hasn't happened yet. The other thing is XLP versus SPY. Looks like this one here was more the order of the day. It was a pretty quick retest of that trend line, and it is going to the upside. That is not a good sign for us. Well, good sign for the bears, not for the bulls. as you can see with similar breakouts here and similar dumps, it can sort of bounce from key horizontal levels. So it's kind of what we now need to look for, which I don't think we've really got any major horizontal levels that it hasn't already pushed through until we get up to about here. So that's probably going to be resistance. Somewhere in that region. So that would suggest another couple of days down. I mean, it could pull back any minute, but that kind of break to the upside is fairly aggressive on that chart. Equal weight XLY XLP broken a key level as well. It does have probably I'd say a decent horizontal support level that could come in around there. So again, another day or so of downside, which if we have a bit of downside and then the JOLTS job openings or the CPI comes out and the market likes it, or it's not as bad as what it could be, then that's potentially gonna bolster the bounce. The equal weight has broken out quite convincingly as well. So the XLP versus SPY equal weight, that's broken as well. So that's basically bear market confirmed, major breakdown confirmed. We're talking, we're talking 2022 kind of breakdowns. We will get bounces just like we did in 2022. We got pretty close to the all-time high then. But it will be met with some pretty decent selling demand. And it could happen in quite quick flushes too if news comes out that something's broken, because that's the main thing. Like the bond markets in Germany and stuff looks not great, but yeah, it's so far I'm not seeing anything major unless I'm missing something. But definitely the bond market is having a little bit of a tantrum at the moment. So watch for key breaks at these sort of levels to suggest we're going on a longer run. We're coming out of that bear. That's going to be fairly critical. See how far back this goes again. Yeah, pretty much GFC kind of stuff. Yeah, this is what I'm expecting. Some major pump in this at some stage. That'll be the flush, and then essentially to really confirm that we're coming out of the bear market, you want to be sort of confirming below these sort of bottom trend lines. Yeah, you've had a decent run up there. So you could be looking at shorter term trend lines up towards the top here, obviously. Potentially something like this, which there was a breakdown, retest, and another breakdown. That's getting you pretty close to the bottom there. So look for stuff like that. Well, that's what I'm going to be looking for anyway. But for the time being, we just blasted straight through that trend line. So again, it would make sense. This one here has actually got a horizontal line, a horizontal resistance line region somewhere around that. Again, another day or so of downside, upside on this particular indicator before we pull back and retest this level. And the retest of this level, maybe into here somewhere, but that whichever level we bounce from is going to mark the top of whatever dead cat bounce we get. Okay. There is some vector candles in here, so we could pull right back. So this could be just like we could have a shakeout of all the shorters out of the system as well. Wall Street could just rip it to the upside. There's not really an indication of that happening at the moment, apart from the fact there are so many puts in the system that if they can, they probably will. But yeah, breaking down some pretty decent trend lines here. That's sort of your last level of support there on the Qs as well. So yeah, Qs potentially bounce up into this trend line at some stage in the future. The interesting thing is global liquidity is bouncing here. The likes of Rail Power, there's some stuff going around on Twitter at the moment that the M2 money supply is going up. Typically, Bitcoin follows that about 3 months later. Where's the M2? Yeah, it depends where you get your data from for the M2. Like, not necessarily convinced by that yet. Maybe I'm wrong, but we will see. Is that actually on the daily? I feel like that's not the daily. I feel like that's monthly. Yeah, it is. There's a trap. So yeah, funny thing is the M2 money supply is actually looking like rolling over at the moment, putting in a lower high. That's probably not going to be great global liquidity wise. So yeah, the last read was in January there. I think there's probably things like Bloomberg Terminal and stuff will get you more up to date on that, but just be careful because I think using that as an excuse to buy shitloads of Bitcoin and hold it for a while, I don't think that's the play. There's too many other indicators suggesting the economy's going bear market at the moment. So global liquidity, the funny thing is global liquidity is going up at the moment. So that should support a bounce on the markets reasonably soon. But I don't think the bounce is going to last super long. We'll see. Ugh. Come back up here. So KRE, regional banking is getting close to a decent trend line. Good demand zone for it. There was a gap closed just below where we're at. So again, probably another day of downside before a bounce. XLF, it hasn't got to its 200 EMA yet. That's not a bad level as well. Probably a sweep of that even, just to pick up the gap close. Yeah. But again, this is a very much a topping pattern as far as I'm concerned. Home construction has rejected this trend line as well. That's not a good sign for us. Home builders, same thing. Just want to have a look at XLI. So XLI is still testing the bottom of this little channel we've been in. No real breakdown there yet. No real break up either. already done IWM. So IWM down. DAX. Oh, sorry. Let's have a look at the VIX. So VIX had a decent spike. 30 is not a bad level for a buy on the VIX typically, but again, if we have another day down, then I kind of expect this to spike above 30. But then I would expect that to have a bit of a pullback. This has been a real grind, the VIX. So skew had a little bounce as well. So there's a bit of a disparity there between skew and what's actually happened on the market. Typically, skew will try and lead. Wasn't a super convincing bounce though either. So we'll see what skew does today. Interesting if this like spikes up quite a bit. It could suggest we've actually put in the bottom, and what you could get is just a swipe of the lows, even pre-market, and then we get the bounce. But there will be a bounce soon. It's just picking the bottom is tricky in this sort of environment. Interesting here that the VIX 1 day hasn't actually made a new high here. So if we're making lower lows on the market and this doesn't make a higher high, then actually suggests that might be a bit of divergence there, which would suggest that this will come down and markets will go up. So just keep that in mind. DAX looking pretty nasty. Hasn't really recovered that vector there, but yeah, I think money will flow out of German markets and UK markets and into the US market. Interesting level for some support here from the UK market. That was a pretty decent trend line, but again, if it bounces from here, I'm not expecting too much to the upside. It's a breakdown of a pretty decent level on the Japanese market as well. So this actually looks like it might follow through to the downside. But beware of that. That's got a measured move at least down into these lows around 35k. TLT, good bounce on TLT. That's basically the bond market fleeing to safety. High yield junk's pulling back. Again, it's in a level where high yield junk could bounce as well. So the fact that high yield junk isn't dropping harder kind of still suggests that we're not dead yet. It's been a flush. It's got a lot of leverage traders out of the system. Leverage longs. Vector candle recovery on LQDIF. So this could still come back a little bit more. Again, supporting a potential little bit further down on the markets, but this trend line would be a good trend line to bounce off at a previous sort of support level as well. So keep that in mind as well. Again, bounces are likely to meet a fair bit of resistance up around this vector candle here. But we'll have to wait and see what happens up there. Yeah, little uninversion of the 3-month versus 10-year. 2-year yields are pulling back. Oh, Jesus. Sorry. 10-year rejection off that trend line. It should pull back as well. It looks like the market wants the Fed to step in and do something here, but at the moment, it's doing all this without any real major news, I guess. This isn't tariffs. This is bonds doing this. and just money flows around the world at the moment. The Chinese 2-year and 10-year yields have actually gone up, opposite to what the US is. So that's why the global liquidity calculation is showing a bump in global liquidity, which I think has been a better read than what the actual N2 money supply is. The more instantaneous sort of read. Copper, vector candle recovery so far. What you don't want to see is breaks below this, basically $4.50 on copper. If we start breaking below that, then that would basically be a fairly negative sign for the economy overall. Like you basically any bounce that we get will be fairly short-lived if we're breaking those levels on copper. Gold, this trend line is going to be an interesting one for me once it hits it. I might actually take a little bit of a nibble just given what's going on, but still want to see it in there for I'd be taking a decent chunk in here somewhere, especially if the 50 EMA is coming into that same level on the daily. Gold, in terms of Aussie dollars, is still quite high. Probably didn't have to sell it, really. Yeah. Silver versus gold ratio is still very low levels. Might pull back a little bit more into this vector and then actually expect a bounce off that. Silver's holding a reasonable level. US oil, that'll be an interesting close in a couple of hours. It looks like it's probably going to break down. That was a retest of the value area low, as we said yesterday. And yeah, rejection off the, I think that's the 9 EMA. Yeah. Oil in terms of the Australian ETF smashed through that level. Not a bad level for buy there, but it'll get smashed even harder if the US oil drops. Interesting level on Dixie here. So haven't quite tapped into bottom here. It's pretty well hit the bottom of this candle. We have closed most of the gap, but a little bit lower on Dixie would close the gap properly. There is a vector candle down here on at 101.5. That's probably not a bad level for a base either, especially if we want to see stocks go up. Kind of want to see Dixie keep coming down. That relationship is broken a little bit at the moment just because of the environment we're in. Aussie dollar, it's actually held up better than I thought it would. I thought this would come down further here. Japanese yen, it's still finding resistance here. Probably, yeah, US dollar is probably going to bounce and this will potentially come down. It's really struggling with it, that level. Euro, it's struggling too. Obviously, a fair bit of supply up here in this vector candle recovery, so it would make sense for Euro to pull back and recover these vectors as well. Doesn't have to, but it would play into that narrative. All right. We still haven't got another read on that, have we? No. Should be coming out soon. Home price index in the US is still flat. Debt balance on credit cards is quite high as well for the US. That was December read. Be nice to get another read on that soon. Probably, yeah, end of this month we should get a read on that. If that actually comes down, then that's great sign. Mm, although it typically peaks at the bottom, the S&P, so one to watch. Actually, probably going to still keep going up. But there's yeah, the debt markets are where the issues are going to be by the look of it. Auto loans, that's just yeah. Turnaround in auto loans once they actually drop is I don't think these are going to give us an early indicator. Could give you an indication that things are starting to get better though once we hit the bottom. The other thing that suggests we're not too far from a bottom is just the percentage of stocks above 50-day moving average. This will probably come down a bit, but we're getting into fairly low levels. Be better if we were here, but not bad. This is a smackdown on the Mag 7. Broken two key trend lines at the moment. The next day will be an interesting one. There's a glaring vector candle here down to around 1600. That will be a very interesting level, but for the time being, I'd kind of expect these to have a little bit of a bounce. Just there should have been more supply in here, that sort of region. Tesla's been smacked though. Tesla, yeah, no, me. Um, so Tesla's gap close at the bottom that we pointed out is actually down to about 213.65. So it's probably got another little bit to go as well. Would have wiped out a lot of people that went long on this gap close because it did get a big bid off that level. But that's under any particular news. So what's going to give you the bounce is if it is on inflation fears, and don't trust the news. It's big guys are selling out, taking profits. It's going to be the CPI comes out tomorrow, and the jobs numbers. That's what's potentially the market's going to like, and honestly, a jump in the where is it? JOLTS job openings. So if there's actually a bigger drop off in this, like if this keeps dropping, then it's actually going to be fuel for the Fed to drop interest rates a bit, and that could actually be seen as a positive on the market. Same if core CPI stays low, CPI year on year, if that comes in lower, then this will be fuel for the markets to go up as well. Okay. So that's something to be on the lookout for. Those two numbers potentially going to support the bounce. I'm not expecting anything else really to do it. Japanese data is going to be interesting as well. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at there. Skip all these; they're all down. They're all they're all at potential bounce levels. Arc K, again, another day down to pick up the bottom of this. Wouldn't really surprise. Just given what we're looking at. Microsoft got spanked, so back below that little trend line. That's actually, that was a decent level for a bounce, but it's smashed through that. So that actually gets moved down now. Basically, you're looking at somewhere in here. Somewhere around there for Microsoft. But again, bounces are going to be met by a lot of resistance up here. I don't even know that Microsoft will close this gap anytime soon. Google's got an interesting gap close there. So again, probably another day down. Nvidia. Oh, that's not a great look for Nvidia. Has recovered this vector candle here. There is a gap below, so another day down for that as well. There's also a fair bit of supply down around this vector candle here, so semis could keep coming down. Where was semis? Yeah, semis might drop a little bit further than the rest of the market. Just looking at that. Interestingly, Stellantis and Ford have both had a green day. That's just weird. I guess the money's got to flow somewhere, doesn't it? TSM, ASML, they're all following Nvidia's lead at the moment. They're all rejecting some pretty decent resistance levels or trend lines. Broadcom, though, looks like it wants to get support off this level, so may not be the end of the road for all of them. AMD, though, is looking, it's still at a key level. Looks like it wants to break down. Just have to wait and see, I guess. You'd be ballsy buying it where it's at. Airbnb, though, that's a pretty good 2-day support off that trend line. So yeah, Airbnb could be a decent buy at that level. Meta again could come back, pick up its 200-day moving average as well, which would pick up that longer term trend line too. Aussie market has swept the lows from here. That's not a bad level for support either. Total crypto market cap is actually at a pretty decent level here for support. Fair bit of supply around here, but it just depends where the liquidity in the market's going to go. ETH BTC longs, they're still longing the shit out of ETH versus BTC. Seems ridiculous. Still plenty of people buying BTC on the dip. So it's just a matter of where are we going to stop. Let's go back in here. So Ethereum has hit some pretty key levels here. Yeah, decent horizontal support level that it's hit. There is a vector candle lower, so down into 1660, like we mentioned before. Again, I think we will hit that and then some, potentially down into 1400s, potentially a lot lower if we're going into a full bear market. CME has gone very close to closing that gap. It has on the wicks, but not necessarily on the actual close of that candle. CME closes above the 200 EMA. That could be a good sign that we're going to bounce to on the daily, obviously. And the other interesting one is this one here. So we swept the lows of this wick, closing back inside this channel, which has been a pretty decent channel. That could be the start of the bounce from there. But yeah, watch this level for resistance. At the very least, be watching this trend line here. All right. Quick look at some alts. LTC looks like it wants a bit more of this vector candle here. The wick, but it could bounce from anywhere around here. That fairly decent amount of trading through here, so it's probably a good supply level. Sol's hit our support level. Looks like it wants to close above that. There is a vector candle wick that goes right down into 109. And there's another one here that goes right down into 103. So somewhere around here, if we do get another sort of down day on markets, we could sweep these lows again still. But I can almost guarantee in the next 6 months, we're going to be back down into these levels anyway. Yeah, Sol was one of the few that actually made a new all-time high this bull run. And even XRP didn't, I think, did it? Oh no, XRP did. Good on you. XRP's still hovering too. It's sort of recovered this vector here. I would have preferred to see it down a bit lower too, sweep this low, a bit more of this vector candle, and probably like that's a key target there. You got the 200 EMA. XRP looks like it wants lower. I think for the time being, any short-term bounces are probably going to be met with a bit more selling. Yeah, like I mean, good stopping volume candles here and a good vector candle to the upside with a lot of volume on the 1 hour. That's actually a good sign that we're potentially going to bounce there. From a fairly overextended downside move in terms of the linear regression channel. Let's go to normal futures. Again, picking up the bottom of that channel. Retest that is potential, but lots of vectors above here. Back up into 81,400. I think that's the gap level on CME too, isn't it? Oh no, 86 is the gap on CME, so should probably go a bit higher than that over the next couple of days. 85,823 is another decent level, but then up into the 87s potentially. Which would see us run into some resistance up here as well. That was the wedge breakdown, which we haven't actually retested the bottom of that thoroughly, I would say, that wedge. Just depends where you draw it, but yeah, look, be careful of sweeps of these levels. That 76 level could actually lead to a bit more of a flush too. So this level may be defended by the centralized exchanges too, because if that flushes hard, we could get a bit of a flash crash and a bit of a liquidity issue. For the time being though, it looks like it's a reasonable level for a bounce. That last sort of vector candle to flush everything out. is quite a common finishing move. So again, 1 foot out the door, but we will bounce at some stage in the next couple of days. I didn't think we'd get down here before we actually bounce, but that breakdown from that level there straight through the mid band, which has provided a fair bit of support and resistance. That was it. Again, happens while I'm asleep. That fucking sucks. Could have actually loaded up on my shorts up here too. Anyway, hopefully that's useful. I'll talk to you later.